Pastor Greg Laurie recently gave an update that has a lot of folks in the news talking about some of the things we're seeing develop, specifically in Southern California, but I think this is happening everywhere.
Okay.
Increase in Bible sales, increase in baptisms, increase in church attendance. Let's let him describe what they're witnessing, and then this has gotten some other coverage. Go ahead.
Recently, are we seeing a revival in America? And my answer to that is maybe and quite possibly. Well, let's define revival. Revival is restoring to original condition. Revival can be national. Revival can be church-wide. Revival can be individual. One promising sign is the return of young men to church. In fact, the New York Times recently did a story on that because it's a phenomena. Generally, women are the ones that are more responsive to church, even more responsive, I would say, in general, to spiritual things. But we see young men rallying, young men wanting to know more about God. I think this is a reaction.
Okay, pause that. We've seen young men return to church, young men be more likely to lean more conservative in their values.
Yep.
Young men want a more masculine version of Christianity, or just, I guess, masculine representation. And we've seen it at our local church, right? Rhythm Church in Oceanside. A huge influx, I would say, of young adults. Women tend to go to church more than men.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're seeing more men go to church, and hopefully these men are getting their lives in order, and
a lot of Marines at our church.
A lot of Marines at our church, right? I think is amazing. And so, yeah, I think so. The uptick we're seeing is specifically with young men right now. But women tend to be more likely to go to church. You know, that's kind of like the trope, like women run the church, but like, nah, like there's a lot more masculine men back in church.
We're coming back, baby. Woo!
To an action. I think men and young men have been beaten down for so long, being accused of being part of the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, and it's turned them into a bunch of soy boys and emasculated guys instead of being the men that God has called them to be.
One time for Pastor Greg Laurie.
Come on, Pastor Greg, just calling it how it is. He said you had too much edamame. I spit it out. Bad.
You know the funny thing is about edamame is actually high in protein.
It is. And honestly, it's delicious.
Kind of slaps.
When you get the garlic roasted.
Yeah.
Come on.
Kind of slaps.
Thing about young men, I just thought of, I was talking to a school teacher who's been doing this for a few decades now. And she said she went to a little Bible club the other day and saw something she's never seen before. She told me out of 30 young kids that were there, 28 of them were boys. That's not normal. That's good though. And let's thank God for this return of young men to the church.
All right.
That's exciting.
All right, go up right above that. There's a little caption. Let's read what the caption says. Bible sales are surging. Shows like The Chosen House of Dude capturing hearts nationwide. A growing hunger for truth, meaning, and hope. There's something stirring in the air right now. Is it the beginning of revival? I unpacked a little more in this video. Now go up, and Meg Basham did a video on this. Meg Basham did a book called Shepherds for Sale, and I kind of roast her because it's like generally what she's talking about is just like being angry at Gavin Ortland and anyone affiliated with this.
She Orthodox?
No, she's not. So finally some good news. Like you finally posted some good news for a change.
Come on. And this is her right here.
Yeah, it's her on the right. Go ahead, please.
Of increasing secularism, we're now seeing some signs of what some experts are calling a Christian revival. What's going on?
Yeah, I would say what's going on, Georgia, is that the rumors of Christianity's death have been greatly exaggerated, because what we're seeing is some new information and data out of the Pew Research Center showing that Christianity has actually seen a 12% uptick since 2022, and that's coming from both Catholics and Protestants.
Woo! 12% uptick.
Come on. That's great.
I'll take it. That's good. I'll take it.
In some dioceses, we're seeing as much of a rise as 72% in converts from 2023 to 2024. Meanwhile, when we look at Protestantism, particularly those evangelical and non-denominational branches, they're up 14% overall. And as we heard there at the start of the show, you're hearing pastors like Greg Laurie, who are the pastors of megachurches in California even, saying that they are seeing record levels of attendance and baptisms.
Now, as John mentioned at the top, this isn't just in the U.S. Where else are we seeing this?
Yeah, the same trend is playing out in Western Europe, particularly Germany, France, Italy, Spain. Germany is reporting a 15% increase in Catholic conversions and a 10% surge in Protestant affiliations, especially among those Pentecostals and Baptists.
Come on.
Catholic pilgrimages like the Chartres.
The interesting part about this is what we're hearing reported on the ground from our Orthodox brothers and sisters is they have their churches full with young men.
Come on.
the data hasn't yet reflected that just yet. And so I think the verdict is out on that specifically. But I'm just saying, it's just not out yet, right? So it's like, okay, there's obviously something happening in an influx, but maybe there's other parishes that are, do they call them, those churches parishes? I don't know what to call them. Maybe there's other ones that are shrinking. But what we're seeing within specifically Catholicism in France is massive. Like that's like undeniable. France is experiencing a Catholic revival specifically, and some non-denominational charismatics. And in America, I hate to say it, like you're kind of always going to see the non-denominationals win. You're always going to see the evangelicals. They make church more accessible to the average person. Young men may not want accessible church. They may want to be called to something more. And so the folks that are transitioning to Eastern Orthodoxy, Catholicism, are they going from non-denominational, or are they going from atheist, secular to these spaces? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know if the data is reflecting that yet. Go ahead.
Pilgrimage in France, that has seen record attendance, over 15,000 participants last year. And you know, what's really interesting about this, Georgia, is that it's not coming from older generations who are just returning to church. It's actually coming from young adults. So even in places like Silicon Valley that are known for their secularism, we're suddenly seeing reports of young tech people returning to church, embracing Christianity.
Huge revival happening in Silicon Valley right now.
Really?
Yeah. The Bay Area is experiencing like Bible studies, like crazy stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, maybe they'll freaking lighten up on some of this algorithm suppression they give Christians.
Fact.
Turn the algorithms on, Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we won't block as many crosses this time.
Vanity Fair recently did a lengthy story on this, on the tech titans that are joining churches. This is what Will Manitis, founder and CEO of medical AI company Science.io, recently told the Technology Daily podcast.
But I also think in New York, there's incredible young Christian movement happening. Like churches.
Let's just acknowledge how these guys fit every single Tech Valley cliche, just in that frame.
There's like a 50% chance one of them is in a federal court case for embezzling like $1 billion in like 5 years from now.
Go ahead.
Of New York is baptizing, like a couple million people a week at this point. It's incredible how quickly this is going.
So what's behind this trend? Are there specific events or societal changes that experts think are fueling this?
Yeah, so a lot of sociologists are pointing to what they call a post-secular moment. Essentially what they say is that a lot of people are feeling unmoored by the rapid pace of political changes that we had seen in recent years. And also part of this is coming from the fact that we're seeing a rise in conservatism, and conservatives tend to be more religious. So as the country has turned to the right, we're seeing something of a more muscular public form of Christianity. And I would also say that for countries like France and England and also the US to some degree, you have a lot of citizens who feel that their cultures are being erased by mass immigration.
Okay. You know what's interesting? Someone pointed this out in the chat. Ben, thank you for the super chat. I live in the East Bay Area. We have a huge Christian homeschool community here. You know how people are getting converted? Is many of them are joining homeschool co-ops because they're like, I'm not sending my kids to public school. They're crazy.
Yeah.
And so there's no secular co-ops. There's no secular, right? And so they're joining these like Christian groups where their kids are going to, right? And those are exploding, by the way.
Yeah.
You can feel however you want to feel about the public school system. You could feel how you want to feel about private schools. You could feel charter schools, whatever. I think school choice is a good thing.
Yeah.
Letting me choose where I send my kids to school and making that as flexible for me as possible. And the issue is, not the issue, the blessing is Christians are on the cutting edge of that.
That's a fact.
Christians are leading that. We've been doing it. And so
we started these once they took the pledge of the prayer out of the 10 Commandments out of school.
Yeah, I mean, I had folks that were early on doing homeschool, but like now it's not weird anymore. Now it's like it's fairly common to be like, why? And then just logistically, like, why would I send my child, who my wife carried inside of her for 9 months? I've been near him since he was a baby. Why would I send him for the majority of his waking hours to be raised by strangers and around kids, and I have no idea what kind of background they have? It just,
if you can afford not to.
Yeah, pragmatically, it just doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Right? And then you start factoring, okay, well, what about households with 2 incomes versus 1 income, and who ends up netting more when you factor in childcare service, you factor in a second car, you factor in dry cleaning, gas, all that kind of stuff.
Car.
There's not a lot of options, and so so even if secular co-ops, Cameron said that, are on the rise in California, I don't know where they are.
I've never seen a secular
I've
co-op.
never seen one.
Yeah.
Maybe there they're existing, but I don't think you're gonna see the same passion for your children from folks who are secular to create this infrastructure that Christians have already had for decades. Because we've already been like, y'all want some weird stuff. We're not sending our kids there.
Yeah.
You know?
And so this is perhaps a way to try to reshore up that Christian character of their countries. And what's interesting is that statistically what's driving this is young men. They are really the ones who are embracing church. Right. And that reverses a decades long trend, really since time immemorial, where women were more religious. So really fascinating that now it's young men. Sociologist Dr. Ryan Berg, who's known as an expert in this area, has written that young men are rejecting the feminization of liberal churches in particular, and they're seeking the traditional worship of more conservative churches.
Shout out to Greg Laurie and Meg Basham for the good news.
Good News Network.
It's Good News Network, man. Hey, I'm pumped. I'm happy. I think we've been seeing it on the ground. It's awesome to hear data's reflecting it and all the different pockets. Like someone, Paul even pointed out, he says, I have 2 autistic sons, and I feel the teachers have better experience than me to give them what they need. I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing people with special needs not send their kids to public school.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I don't trust these teachers. You see these videos of these teachers or these service workers hitting kids that go viral, right? And like losing it. And so that I think that's less likely to happen in a Christian co-op or like, hey, we send our kids 2 days to school and then the rest of the time they're with us. And so I think it's awesome and praise God for it. Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.